This program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB, Gulfstream Park, the championship meet, running now through Florida Derby weekend, March 31st.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning, a rainy Saturday morning here in the Capital District. Hopefully, wherever you may be watching, and most of our viewership is in the local area. But again, over the past few years, we have been available on the Roberts Network, and we simulcast over on our YouTube channel. So we certainly hear from plenty of people at other locations. I had a text yesterday watching the afternoon program from California. So hopefully where you are watching, the weather is nicer, although the potential today in the country is you could be watching from someplace where it is much worse. So as I said earlier, driving down today in the gray, rainy weather, I thought this is a miserable day. Then I thought, it could be snowing. So it could be 20 degrees cooler, and this rain would be far, far less fun as snow. But again, hopefully wherever you are, if the weather isn't good, you're hunkered down, and if the weather is good, thumbs up. And hopefully, as far as racing today, the weather holds up nicely, and we will live a little vicariously looking at Florida this afternoon. When we come back from our first break, we'll be joined by Ren Carothers. You see her doing the pre-race commentary down at Tampa every day. So I reached out to Ren to talk a little bit about nice stakes action down in Tampa this afternoon. So we'll get a little preview of that in a few. And a little bit later on, Bob Ehalt will join us. You can find Bob's work at the Bloodhorse over at the America's Best Racing website and more. Bob had a nice little article just within the past few days, talked to Danny Gargan about Dornoch, and we'll get a little update on where we can expect to see that interesting 3-year-old. Also, he saw Drum Roll Please down in New York last week and did a recap article on that, so we'll get thoughts of the results from the Jerome. And also the Eclipse finalists came out last weekend, so we'll get Bob's thoughts on the Eclipse awards and some of the slam dunks and some of the categories that may be a little bit intriguing when the announcement is made in a couple of weeks. So, I will remind you before I go to the break, there's a carryover today in the Pick Six in New York, $69,000 Pick Six carryover. So keep that in mind. And also do want to remind you that Clubhouse Racebook today, $100 win-a-bet challenge. If you'd like to come down and join us at the Racebook to watch all the racing action, we invite you to do so this afternoon and maybe win a little extra something with the $100 win-a-bet challenge. That is 711 Central Avenue in Albany. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Ren Carothers will join us, and we will take a look at some of the nice stakes action at Tampa Bay Downs. Stay tuned.
And they're off in the Pegasus World Cup. They're off in the Fountain of Youth Stakes. And they're off in the Curlin Florida Derby. Forte wins. White Arboreal almost home.
And Nyquist is still unbeaten. Orb and John Velasquez have won the Florida Derby.
Barbaro wins.
And there you have it. Northern Dancer will be the winner of the Florida Derby.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew. to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. As promised before the break, joined now by our friend Ren Carothers. You see her do the pre-race commentary down at Tampa, and we were talking off the air. I got to get down there. It's been too long. One of my favorite tracks. I like wintertime racing because I really like Tampa. I really like Oak Lawn. But I have got to make a trip down there to get back to Tampa because, again, it's one of my favorite tracks. It's perfect size. It always seems like there's a little buzz in the building, great racing, and maybe more importantly, for where I'm located, great weather as well. But a nice card this afternoon. Ren, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. And yes, you got to come and you got to, enjoy the beautiful amenities that the track offers, including the wildlife.
Exactly. The alligator is always fun. Don't fall in the pond. They can't do down there what they do up at Fort Erie after that one race where they all jump in the pond. You don't want to be doing that. And also, before we get going on Tampa, I want to tip my cap to you because it was kind of fun. I texted you a couple of months ago because I'm sitting in here doing the afternoon handicapping show, and I have the monitors going, and typically I'm taking a look at 3 different tracks, and one of them is Churchill, and our friend Joe Christofek sends it out to the paddock, and who's at the paddock doing commentary at Churchill? Ren Carothers. So I sent you a little thumbs up. That had to be fun. You substituted for a few days, right?
Yes. Scott was out, so they had Caitlin on the desk, and I was there in the paddock filling in, and it was just so cool, so surreal. I mean, it's Churchill Downs, the host track of the Kentucky Derby. So to be standing there and talking to people about horses while the Twin Spires are right behind me was just pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, it was fun to kind of see you there. I shot you a little text and said, nice new gig. And obviously you did a great job as well. But a few weeks back now, kicked off things down in Tampa as usual, and we're a little bit into the meat. And just before we look at today, I wanted to touch on, because I pulled up the stats, and it's one of those tracks. Some tracks are more than others. But at Tampa, I think you have to pay attention a little bit to trainers and jockeys sometimes because they can be potent down there on the top end. And I pulled up the stats last night on Equibase. Sammy Camacho, no surprises in the lead. Gallardo second. I always look at Dan Santino as well. And as I say, Camacho has, over the last few years, you have to pay attention to any horse he is on. On the trainer side of things, I was a little bit surprised, but I guess over the past year with Brittany Russell and Linda Rice in Maryland and New York, maybe no surprise. But on the trainer side of things, Kathleen O'Connell has a clear lead, 20 wins compared to the tied for second, a couple of male counterparts with 11 wins. Gerald Bennett, he'll heat up a little bit. Currently, he's sitting in about 5th place. But your thoughts on the human side of things this season down at Tampa?
Well, no, I mean, Kathleen's barn is just striking at an incredibly consistent rate. I mean, it's just a testament to just the great horsemanship that her barn employs. But yeah, you were seeing Jamie Ness, who's made a return in a more meaningful way to Tampa. Sacco is doing really well. Also, Jose D'Angelo, he is sending horses up that are firing. So, I mean, I always pay attention when I see he's got an entry. Because they're always well meant, even if they don't win. So they put in a good performance. Yeah,
you mentioned too. I'm glad you did. Sacco and Jamie Ness are clearly worth watching this season down there as well, and names that obviously folks are familiar with from other venues also. All right, let's jump into it. Tampa Bay Downs this afternoon. Stakes action will kick off. Race number 6, the Wayward Lass, a mile and a 16th for the fillies and mares. And part of the reason I brought up Kathleen O'Connell is because I think Dream Concert looks very interesting, particularly if that morning line holds up. I'm going to pull up a replay of the City of Ocala going back to December 9th. The winner is going to be number 2, Bluefeld, but running a very close-up second will be number 7, Dream Concert. I'm going in that direction, but I think Liban is interesting. I think Magical Loot is kind of a player. Opus 42. What did you see in the Wayward Lass?
Well, I mean, hey, I wouldn't fault anybody for liking Dream Concert. That was a really good performance she put in. First off, the layoff in the city of Ocala. Now those blinkers are coming off, trying to get her to relax as we're going to stretch out. I'm just concerned. I think there's a lot of speed in here. I went with the Ian Wilkes horse on the Magical Loot as my top pick. I think she's the type that can take advantage of this. Last out at Churchill Downs, going 8.5. With like no pace at which to run. She came from a couple lengths off it to get within a length of 3/4 of the winner there. And, Elise Look had won the Silver Bullet Day. She had run third in the Fairground Oaks and the Kentucky Oaks. The runner up there was Corningstone, who next ran second to Hidden Connection in a stakes race at the Fairgrounds, or an 82 buyer figure. And I mean, you even had in 5th place in that race, Chop Chop. She was great in one place. It was at 2 years old, but still. So I really like this filly. This is one with Sammy Camacho aboard, and I don't think Ian's shipping for no good reason. I mean, I know he has other horses on the card, but I think this one is definitely live.
Yeah, as you're talking, I'm looking, and I like the Kentucky shippers going down, and Ian Wilkes is always one that you have to pay attention to. But again, as we mentioned, Sammy Camacho on board is a plus as well. All right, let's move on to the 7th race this afternoon, the Gasparilla. We are looking at 3-year-old fillies going 7. And I'm on a Kathleen O'Connell runner again. I'm going to look at Gervin's Princess, who comes in off a win. And we're going to take a look at that win going back to November 29th. Gervin's Princess is going to be the number 5 horse here. This was straight off a maiden breaker, and I like that as well. Broke the maiden for a 25 tag, but clearly they felt this horse had some talent and validated here with this win. Now they step into stakes company. I'm going to be interested to see the price, but I find this horse interesting. Mystic Lake for Safi Joseph coming over after some tries at Woodbine on the synthetic in a couple of stakes races most recently, but has some nice works coming into this. Delightful Summer, I think, is a player for Gerald Bennett. Gorgeous Girl for the aforementioned Greg Sacco. Fun little race. What did you see in the Gasparilla?
I just think Mystic Lake is going to be lone speed here. Scott the Rail. If you check out that December 30th work at Palm Meadows, I mean, she just blitzed out of there, 46-4. So anybody's got concerns about her dirt form, I would say probably don't have to worry about it. And the other thing I would say about her as well, I know she's had the one dirt start, but if you watch it, it was only the debut, and I always forgive the debut. People have heard me say that probably pretty often. Because, it's just a learning experience, right? But the other thing I would say is that out of the gate, she got out of the stall real wonky. It looked like she almost splayed her legs. And so I forgive that start. And, I mean, she's been running, as you said, against stakes competition there in the synthetic at Woodbine. And based upon, again, the drill, I just think she's low speed. I think she's going to gun out of there and be gone. The other horse that I think is really one who you need to look at is, and I know it's not a price, is Gorgeous Girl, because when they brought her back off the layoff, Sacco, it was in an optional 75 against the boys. I think she would have won had it not been for the start of that race. She was so gallant in defeat, because what ended up happening is out of the gate, she didn't just get bumped. She got ping-ponged back and forth for several strides. It wasn't just like, a little bump. I mean, it was several strides, and she still persevered, and she still was able to get the showdown with not a big beaten margin either. And, I mean, there's been one horse to run back that was the runner-up there ever do it. And he did run 6th, and it was last, and it's because it was a 6-horse field, but he was the pace setter in the Mucho Macho Man Stakes out of that race. So I think Gorgeous Girl is very live there as the potential one to beat Mystic Lake. The other horse I think was kind of interesting at a big price is the number 7, who's 20-1 on the morning line. Genuine Peril. Did you?
I had a couple of check marks there too.
Was hot.
Yeah, I had a couple of check marks next to that one myself. And I debated using Gorgeous Girl on top on what you said. The trip was intriguing to me, and I went back and forth. Yeah.
Almost if it weren't for this other filly looking like she just doesn't have anybody who can really like push on her, then I would have gone that direction with Gorgeous Girl.
Yeah, these are the kind of races that they're interesting to see, because you'll get a pretty good idea of your opinion about a furlong out, whether Mystic Lake can get it done. So they're always fun to kind of handicap, and then, okay, is it going to play out that way? And I have no arguments with your thoughts there. We'll just see if the Kathleen O'Connell runner can maybe go back-to-back, stepping into stakes company, and maybe a touch of value there because of, I think, the favorite on the inside. All right, a little bit later on, the Pasco, 3-year-olds going 7. Always fun this time of year to watch the 3-year-olds. And I have to admit, I just kind of chalked out here. I went with Bookham Dano. Yeah, I mean, it's hard.
Don't feel bad.
I pulled up the futurity, which was a nice win. This is going back to Belmont at the Big A on October 8th. And Bookham Dano is going to be the number 8 horse in here, and gets it done pretty easily. Subsequent to that, finished a close-up second in the Nashua behind Where's Chris, who subsequently ran 5th in the Remsen, so maybe didn't flatter this one. But, boy, I think you look at what, the futurity that we're looking at here, the stretch run, and overall, Bookham Dano is going to go a short price, and I think and added to my confidence level when I read the Racing Forum preview of the race. They're essentially using this as a prep to go over to Saudi Arabia. So,
there you go.
Yeah, it's just, to me, I think Banded Rocket from Kathleen O'Connell is maybe a little bit interesting with Rocket in the name. Unsurprisingly owned by Frank Fletcher. West Saratoga, obviously. That West Saratoga is probably the most likely upsetter, but I went with Bookham Dano, and it sounds like you're in the same camp.
Yeah, I'm so boring. I'm so boring here. I went Bookham Dano over West Saratoga, and then I was going to complete the top 3 with Crazy Mason, but he has been scratched. I don't know if any of your listeners have not yet seen that, but he has been scratched, Crazy Mason, who was second in our inaugural stakes last out. So I went ahead and I put Banded Rocket, who was 10-1 on the morning line, as my third choice. Won that debut really nicely. That was an honestly paced race, going 6.5 furlongs. He went for $230,000 at the OBS sale. That damn there, Scion Power, is a full sister to Derwin Stark. I don't know if you remember her or not. But she was, grade 3 winner. She was second in the Ballerina Stakes. Family also includes Cardinastra, Travers winner, so you gotta love that. For Kathleen to go ahead and take him out of the maiden race, put him right in here, I think they really like this horse, obviously.
Yeah, and I'm going to be intrigued. They paid a lot of money, and again, potent connections, but it does look like it's Bookham Dano's race. And I'm curious, you aren't old enough. I was going to ask you, are you old enough? I know you aren't to get the reference there, but is that a known enough reference? Do you know where Bookham Dano came from?
Well, yeah, from the Bookham Dano, the TV show, the
Hawaii 5-0.
Hawaii 5-0.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I'm old enough. I remember watching the show, but I wondered for people who didn't see this.
I watched Magnum PI.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go. But I wondered.
A little Columbo.
Yeah. Columbo was also great. Yeah. And I wasn't big on all the detective shows, but I did like Columbo, and I would watch Hawaii 5-0 occasionally because there was a great one with Hugh Cronin. I can't whatever where he was a quirky criminal, and if that one ever comes up on replays, I will tell people to watch that one. But other than that, again, that's where Bookham Dano came from. Ren, appreciate the thoughts. And again, we always love paying attention to Tampa this time of year. So we will check in again, certainly, as the meet progresses. But have fun this afternoon, pick some winners. And as I say, we'll talk again.
All right. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. I love what you and the Capital OTB crew do. So thank you so much, and all the best and all your best today.
Same to you. Appreciate it. Ren Carothers, again, you can see her this afternoon and every Tampa Racing Day doing the pre-race commentary. Nice little stakes card at Tampa this afternoon. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll hit on some news and notes. A little bit later on, Bob Ehalt will join us. So stay tuned. Back in a few.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Falbrough. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a three-horse photo finish to the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. Within the last, week? About a week ago. Final numbers for thoroughbred racing in North America came out as far as the money. Wagering December numbers were pretty good. Year-to-date numbers came out, but also December numbers. Wagering in December 2022 versus 2023, up 6%. You got to love that. The number of racing days, though, down almost 10%. Number of races down about 9%. So a little bit concerning there, perhaps. Fourth quarter overall, year to year, down 1.66% wagering. And the concern overall is, again, year to date, total year, 2023 versus 2022, we were down 3.7% with wagering last year. So that's a little bit of a concern. But again, you have to remember Saratoga took a little bit of a beating with the weather up there. The fall in New York, the weather continued. So it's a game played outdoors. Weather affects it quite a bit. You lose turf racing. And a couple of the articles I read when these numbers came out looked at New York and overall some of the other tracks and the number of turf races 2022 compared to 2023. It was notable. Turf races typically attract a little bit of a bigger field. You get a little bit more bet into the race. So again, the weather, I think, played into the result last year in a notable fashion. Number of days year to year down almost 5.5%. The number of races down a little over 5%. So again, those are kind of notable. And some of the news from last year, Golden Gate closing down. We'll see with Turf Paradise. I'm going to be interested to see because Turf Paradise was totally up in the air, and we'll kind of see how that's going to shake out because now they're supposed to come back, but I've read they're doing a little checking on the track and whatnot to make sure things are okay when they come back. So we'll see, but you never like to see us lose a track. And in Maryland, I'm not sure what to make of the news in Maryland, and I think we'll try to get Frank Vespi on sometime within the next couple of weeks. Covers Maryland racing, and he covered for Bloodhorse this proposal they have coming out. Racing moves to Pimlico, a renovated Pimlico. Laurel will close. It'll be essentially a not-for-profit state-run organization, similar to what we do here in New York with NYRA or what they do out at Del Mar. We'll see how that plan progresses. Does it move forward? Does it progress? But again, we'll have Frank in maybe to talk a little bit more about that. But those were, again, the numbers from last year, kind of a mixed bag, as they say. You saw numbers go down, but when you, again, parsed into it a little closer and looked, I think the weather issue maybe did play into some of those factors more than you might have hoped for when you're kind of kicking your year off and keeping your fingers crossed weather-wise. Certainly we saw that right up here. I'll tell you, we are certainly hoping for early in June this year to be gorgeous weather with the Belmont Stakes coming up here. Mentioned it earlier on the handicappers report, but the news came out this week. Churchill Downs purse, $5 million. You have to love that. And it does sound like they're kicking up the numbers kind of across the board. As I said earlier, the $5 million purse makes this the second richest race in North America behind the Breeders' Cup Classic at $6 million. But again, according to the press release they sent out, some of the coverage, I'm just quoting here, the purse increase for the mile and a quarter Kentucky Derby for 3-year-olds highlights a record 50-race stake schedule, cumulatively worth $25.6 million for Churchill Downs 2024 spring meet. So that's notable, very big numbers, obviously. And I mentioned it when this news came out a couple of days ago. Those historical racing machines down in Kentucky have really changed the landscape for them. I mean, it leads into this type of thing. It has certainly helped Turfway. Turfway with their winter meet, I think, has become a little more notable with some bigger names kind of hanging around or moving in for the winter. So the Turfway meet has benefited. And clearly, those historical racing machines have benefited Kentucky Downs with their just mind-boggling purses. I mean, that's all due to that money. And so Kentucky has certainly taken advantage of that and continue to do so with the purse increase for the Kentucky Derby. Did also want to mention yesterday there was the Pick 6 carryover at Aqueduct and the Pick 5 carryover. And boy, when you looked at those numbers, you can see the Pick 5 has become a very, very popular wager. First of all, they both had carryovers from Thursday, and in the Pick 6, I want to say 17,000, whereas in the Pick 5, it was more like 50. So obviously the point being on Thursday, they played a lot more money into the Pick 5, but then it played out. Similarly, they added, an okay amount of money to the Pick 6 yesterday, but the Pick 6 carries over to today and there's 69,000. Whereas with the Pick 5 actually had 115,000 yesterday to start, and they put $250,000 in. So it just, again, goes to demonstrate the Pick 5 has become very popular, particularly you get one of those carryovers. Pick 5, I said I put a little ticket out on Twitter yesterday and got knocked out in the first leg because the longest shot on the board hit and then hit the rest of the way. Pick 4 was okay. Again, the reloading, the nice thing about losing the first leg is you can reload and play the Pick 4. Pick 4 for 50 cents. And if somebody looked at my ticket on Twitter, I'm pretty sure it cost $27 at that point. You would have gotten back at a 50-cent level. You would have gotten back $278 on the Pick 4. Pick 5, however, starting out with that long price, wound up paying $3,800. The Pick 6, and again, it was a console because nobody hit it, paid $453. But you had in the Pick 6 sequence, you start out with an $8 horse. Then the Pick 5 sequence starts out with $28. Then it's $8, $9, $10, and $8. So there wasn't anything super crazy in there. It's just when you string some of those together, it gets a little tougher, particularly in the Pick 5 side of things, that longest price in the field of 6. But again, today in New York, we do have a Pick 6 carryover. I believe, again, it's $69,000. So if you're a Pick 6 player, you can look forward to that this afternoon at Aqueduct. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by our friend Bob Ehalt. We'll talk a little bit of 3-year-old action and maybe get some thoughts on the Eclipse finalists as well. All of that right after this. Stay tuned.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Gulfstream Park's championship meet brings world-class thoroughbred racing to South Florida each winter, and it's a prime reason to offer the best turf racing possible. Having the best surfaces is the key to offering a superior racing product. We are committed to attracting the world's best horses, trainers, and jockeys to run over our exceptional course. Gulfstream Park's new turf course will be unveiled this December.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now. Welcome back. As promised before the break, joined now by our friend Bob Ehalt. You can find his work in the Bloodhorse over at America's Best Racing and beyond. Bob, good morning.
Good morning, Seth, and a little belated Happy New Year to you and your family and everyone and all the listeners.
Same to you. Right back at you. And I'll start out because I had this at the bottom of the list, but as you mentioned, the new year is bringing some fun news for those of us in this area, and I'll get your thoughts on it because you're a New York racing guy, cover New York racing for the Bloodhorse, spend a lot of time at the New York tracks, including right up here at Saratoga. And I can tell you, the buzz started after Saratoga, but when the official announcement came out a few weeks ago, people recognized me in the supermarket and whatnot, and there is a lot of excitement building. Belmont Stakes at Saratoga. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's going to be, I don't know, there's a lot of words you could use. Epic, awesome. It's going to be something. I think it's going to be personally, I think it's going to be the one of the events of the year for horse racing, without question. The Saratoga setting for the Belmont Stakes. It's just going to be something you want to experience. If NYRA has its way, you're going to have it for 2 years. In 24 and 25. By 26, they're hoping to be back at Belmont Park. So the fact that you're only going to have this 2-year window, I think it's just going to be special. And let me say this, the business community in Saratoga is probably doing cartwheels because you're hearing prices in hotels for $1,000, $1,500 a night, where normally maybe they would have gotten $200, So this is for the Saratoga community. I do hope they are saying thank you because of the added income. And for racing fans, it's going to be crazy. I would advise. I mean, look, a lot of the people going are going to be extremely rich. They can handle things, but I imagine even Albany has got to be Albany's going to benefit because, shall we say, I think the average racing fan, fortunate enough to get tickets and such, that might be the more economical way to spend the weekend.
Yeah, I have said to people, look at a close community. It's a nice little drive. Even my old burg down in Amsterdam, it's not that much of a drive, and I'm sure it is far more reasonable. And you said 1,000 or 2,000. I will leave it unnamed, but I saw a prominent hotel, $4,000 a night. Yikes.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was looking at some of the more modest ones.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, well, look, it's going to be rich man's territory. Yeah. I mean, that's who's going to try to get the seats and the tickets and stuff. And prices. Look, we're in a free economy, so the market will bear what the market holds. And I think you're going to see people who are going to pay that $4,000 who have that kind of income. I mean, if you own the horse, how much money do you put up just to start the horse in the Belmont? So. As I say, it's going to be, I think, a spectacular setting for racetrack fans because the weather is June. The weather should be great. Hopefully we won't get rain. Saratoga rainstorms will stay away for a week. And I just think it'll be a real memorable show. And you got this year and you have next year to come back and try it again. The second year might be even better because I think they'll get some of the kinks out. This is not, this isn't an easy process of taking all of New York racing, moving it upstate for a week, because, it's not like the betting machines and stuff like that are sitting in storage at Saratoga. All the equipment has to be moved up because Saratoga basically is a shell. It has some of, you'll have some of the benches and things like that sitting up there, but the important hardware is not there. Same thing for people. We talk about these prices. Well, NYRA has things like, cameramen, vending help, things like that who, they can't pay $1,500 a night, or will NYRA compensate them? I don't know, but it is quite a venture. I will say this, there is a change in philosophy because when the talk of the arena first happened, I believe back in 2018, when the arena was built and there was talk that they were going to rebuild Belmont then to coordinate with the arena, which was delayed and didn't happen, I did put to the Martin Panza, who was the director of racing at the time, I said, well, what are you going to do when Belmont's closed? I don't know if you could do it at Aqueduct. Would you think of going to Saratoga? And he said no. He said it was just too much of a logistical nightmare to try to go up there. So this isn't going to be the easiest to process for NYRA. I would expect there will be a little bit of snafus. I would think after this first year, then they could kind of get it worked out. The second year be a lot smoother. But even in spite of that, I do think it's going to be a spectacular show that if you got the opportunity to be up there and see it, go see it.
I'm right with you. And as I say, the buzz has already started around here. If there's a Triple Crown on the line, it goes bonkers. But just a regular Belmont Stakes festival is going to be a lot of fun. But you make a great point. For folks who aren't familiar, you couldn't walk in there today and run racing at Saratoga. As you say, you and I have been there either before opening day, we'll go in and get credentials or whatever, or opening night when you walk out. You see out of the offices, the boxes and the trucks being loaded up with the equipment and the paperwork and whatnot. It is going to be a major thing to come up here for 4 days. And so that's certainly worth noting.
Yeah, no, it is. It's as I say. And, and I think of it too. We say 4 days, but I was talking with Dave Groening of the Racing Forum the other day about it. Looking into the future, now let's say we have a Triple Crown winner. When he leaves Pimlico, where is he going?
Yeah,
he's going to go to Saratoga. He's not going to go train at Belmont. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to train at Belmont Park for a race at Saratoga. A lot of these horses are going to go right to Saratoga. Same thing with all those horses at the Grade 1 stakes that they're having. I doubt they're going to do their final prep at Belmont Park, especially if you're like a Todd Fletcher or Clement, Chad Brown, Bill Mott, who have barns at Saratoga. They're going to get their horses training up at Saratoga. So there's going to be a lot of activity in Saratoga, not just 4 days, probably going to be a couple of weeks. Because like I say, I do think if you're a Preakness runner, you don't stay at Pimlico. The track is deserted. Doubtful you're going to go to Churchill Downs and then go. Doubtful you'll go to Belmont Park and train. You're just going to go right up to Saratoga. Yeah. So the hub of activity is going to be at least, maybe 2 weeks, at least 10 days, something like that. At least 2 weeks, I'd say, because you got a 3-week gap. So as I say, I think this is going to be a real big buzz that is going to go. And again, there'll be maybe 4 days of racing, but to get those 4 days of racing in, you're going to see a lot of activity at Oklahoma. You're going to see you're going to have media up there because, as I say, if there's a Triple Crown winner, that's where he's going to be.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. People may want to reserve their spot by the Oklahoma track now. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but you're absolutely right. There will be a lot of work over at Oklahoma leading into that festival. All right, Bob, let's get to some of the conversation based on some of your work in the Bloodhorse over the past few days. And it's both of them are on the 3-year-old side of things. And one of the reasons I called you is because you did an article. You talked to Danny Gargan and got a little update on Dornoch, one of the top 2-year-olds from last year. Started the career with a couple of second place finishes, maiden race up at Saratoga, and then went to the Sapling, ran second there, but subsequently broke the maiden very convincingly. And we're going to take a look here at the replay of the Remsen back on December 2nd. It's going to be number 3, Dornoch, the full sibling to Mage, getting it done. Does it with a nice 91 buyer figure. So again, one of the top 2-year-olds from last year with some bloodlines that are very intriguing. and you talked to Danny Gargan, and what's up with Dornoch coming forward?
Well, Dornoch just earlier this week just kind of started galloping. Danny is looking to get a first workout in. He said at the time, next weekend, somewhere January 20th to 22nd. I imagine weather may come into play if it does or doesn't. And then he looks to put about maybe 5 works into the horse and will go Fountain of Youth. Then, not staying in Florida, he's going to come north, either to Kentucky for the Bluegrass or go to the Wood Memorial. One of the two. I think he'll kind of look at the field, look at different things, and make a decision. And certainly, I think he's one of the more exciting prospects. He certainly has the bloodlines to do it. I mean, his full brother won at the 1.25 miles, was one of the better 3-year-olds. It wasn't just a Derby fluke. I thought he put in some good efforts throughout the year. Kind of, the campaign caught up with him at the end. But, I think, Dornoch, I give him credit. I mean, I do think on the day of the Remsen, there was some inside speed that helped him. There's no doubt about that. But, there has to be some tenacity in a horse. When you're on the lead, you get passed by a horse who came from last in mid-stretch, and then you battle back to win. Bias, yes. No, that probably helps. But you still have to have some quality, some tenacity. That's what you like from a horse. And I think Danny's making a good move. Get the one race in over at Gulfstream. He's not probably going to be 100% for that. And then you bring him up north to one of the 2 tracks, and you go for your, you try to get the points that you're going to need to get in because that was certainly, he's got some to start with. I think you'll pick up some in the Fountain of Youth. I think if he wins the Fountain of Youth, he should be in because I think that's a 50-point race. The Holy Bull is the lesser one. So, depending on how he stands, if he needs points or not, I think that'll kind of determine a point 2 of where he goes. If, say he finishes 4th in the Fountain of Youth by 4 noses, well, maybe who knows what he'll do. But I think he's going to be an exciting horse. The horse that he beat by a nose, Sierra Leone, I think he was a little inexperienced. It was only his second start. And the fact that maybe he got a little tired at the end, I think is not unusual. Chad Brown has a similar type plan, but he's going to go to the Risen Star at Fairgrounds in mid-February for a 1.125 mile race there. And then he's not going to run in Florida. He's going to take the horse, same idea as Gargan, Bluegrass or Wood, depending on which one he likes.
Interesting. At Sierra Leone, they paid over $2 million for that horse. And we just watched the replay again of that Remsen, and it looked like Sierra Leone had it in his back pocket. But as you say, to see Dornoch come up the rail, bias or no, that is tough to come back. That's a gutsy performance. So both of those worth watching going forward. But running 3rd in that race was Drumroll Please. And subsequently, last week in New York, we ran the Jerome. Drumroll Please wound up to be the 3-5 favorite and got back on track with a win there. We're going to watch the stretch run to the Jerome. It is Drumroll Please. Again, coming out of the 3rd place finish in the Remsen, follows it up with this victory last week under Javier Castellano. Now, I will note, the time was slower than the maidens won the race in exactly the following race. The buyer figure of 80 is okay for a 3-year-old this time of year, not a standout. So I looked at this race and thought, I think Brad Cox probably has a nice stakes quality runner as the year goes ahead. And I won't necessarily count him out of the Triple Crown picture, but I'm thinking maybe they'll pick their spots a little bit for Drumroll Please. Give me your thoughts out of the Jerome.
Well, I noted the time as well, but that track was so slow.
Yeah.
I would kind of discount it. He really only ran in the stretch. He kind of galloped to the quarter pole, and then he kind of extended himself for the 1/4 mile. It was a fluky day. I mean, if you recall, we were supposed to get here in New York a foot of snow.
Yeah.
It was cold weather. It was weird. It did start getting little snowflakes at Aqueduct around the 6th race. I really think that track was just the kind of track where let's not focus on the time in that particular race. I mean, when you go the fractions that the horses went, which can you blame the leader if he's going to go, what was it, 114 and change? It was pretty slow. That's what the leader's got to do. He's, of course, going to go as slow as he could. He's not going to help the horses behind him. So I kind of look at it visually. He didn't beat much. He certainly did not face the caliber of horses that he faced in the Remsen. But I think it's a good stepping stone race. He showed, to me, he looks like a horse who should be able to go 2 turns. And we're going to know a lot more about him next month. Brad Cox's plan, a little different than the other guys. He's going to go to the Withers in February, skip the Gotham because, again, Naira's schedule is kind of weird. Mile and an eighth, mile and an eighth with the 4 preps. He's going to skip the Gotham and then go to probably the Wood or somewhere else, depending on what he feels. I would likely think if he wins the Withers, he'll go to the Wood. But, I think we're going to know a little bit more. I wouldn't discount him. I'm a speed figure guy. I love the sheets and everything. But I just get the feeling that was a day where you're more inclined to look at the performance. And a key with his race, that was another day really kind to speed horses. So he was kind of bucking a bias, ran well with the stretch, kind of showed, I think that he could go the 2-turn distance. And, I'm not sure if he's going to if he's going to bring home the roses on the first Saturday in May, but I won't discount him yet. I think, the Remsen may turn out to be a key race. So I will still keep an eye on him. He's in great hands. I mean, Brad Cox does a great job, especially the Triple Crown Trail. He does great with 3-year-olds in the Triple Crown Series. Afterward, he's in good hands, and certainly I would not discount him just yet.
Yeah, you mentioned good hands. Also owned by Al Gold, and Al Gold has been a fixture in New York racing for a while, but now with Brad Cox, he has moved to another level.
Right. Yeah. No, Al's a good guy, one of the good guys in the sport. I think a lot of people would love to see him, get a real top Derby contender. Again, I'm not sure if this horse is, but like I say, I think it was the kind of effort you want to see on January 1st.
Yeah, and
what we're going to see in February, the start of February, let's see what we see, and then the start of April, what we see. That's when you're going to have the real picture about this horse's chances.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the same boat as you are. The number was a little light, so I'm skeptical, but I'll give him another before I make a real decision. But I do think one way or the other, I think they have a nice little stakes horse. They may just have to pick their spots. All right, let's. Last weekend, the Eclipse finalists were announced. So I wanted some thoughts from you on that because I know you're an Eclipse voter as well. Let's start with Horse of the Year. Now, finalists for Horse of the Year were not announced. They don't get announced until the night of the awards. But for me, on my ballot, I went Cody's Wish 1, Idiomatic 2, and then I could have gone in different directions. After the fact, I thought, you know what, I maybe should have put Up to the Mark in the 3rd spot, but I put Elite Power. But I went Cody's Wish over Idiomatic, and we're going to take a look at the Met Mile from last year, where it'll be number 1, Cody's Wish, getting it done over number 6, Zandon. And number 9 here, running 3rd, is White Abarrio. I left White Abarrio off of my Horse of the Year finalist list. He had a fine, obviously, end to the year. But I just thought Cody's Wish put together a pretty good season, certainly. There was a little story attached to it. And I will say, I debated about Idiomatic, who started the year in January and then finished the year strong in November. She was very close for me, but I tilted towards Cody's Wish. What are your thoughts, Horse of the Year?
Well, I'm with you. I went for Cody's Wish. And, my reasoning, and I say this, I think a championship is determined on the racetrack. And that's a tough decision. And that is, I think, a tough call with, in terms, like, if you want to start with the equation, you go to the old dirt mail, where you have White Abarrio and Cody's Wish. Now, looking at them just on the racetrack, okay, White Abarrio did win two of the biggest races, dirt races in the year, in the Whitney and the Breeders' Cup Classic. Cody's Wish won the Met Mile, which is one of the premier dirt races in the year, and he won the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, which is lesser than the Classic, of course. But head-to-head, they were 1-1, which, okay, so things are pretty tight. Key point for me and why I kind of shied away from White Abarrio, we can't forget he really didn't put in much of an effort in the Pegasus.
Yeah.
And it was a 2000. It was January, but it was a 2023 race. So if he didn't have the Pegasus on his resume, that would have been a really, really tough question for me in determining those two, because they were 1-1, and probably Barrio would have a bit of an edge. The fact that you have to take the whole campaign in effect, I did give Cody's Wish the edge of the dirt male category. Now, that being said, on a individual division, Horse of the Year is a bird of a different feather, because you're mixing apples and oranges. You're trying to compare a 2-year-old with a 3-year-old, with an older horse, with a turf horse. They don't race against each other. You don't have those barometers. So I think there's a lot of intangibles that come into it, and that isn't always sometimes just what happens on the racetrack. I think what you did for the benefit of the sport should come into play when you talk about the Horse of the Year. And certainly, I don't think there's any question. The story of the year throughout the year of 2023 was Cody's Wish, and the association with now the late Cody Dorman. That was such a heartwarming story that it was just one of those stories you're not going to forget for a long time. And I thought when you factor in all of that, and I will say the way the Connections handled that entire situation with a lot of class, it was a very difficult situation. I thought they handled it with class. I thought it reflected what they did reflected well on the entire industry. And so when you take a horse who is that good on the racetrack and add that intangible, to me, he was Horse of the Year.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you said there. Let's go more to the slam dunk category, where I think it's not as questionable, but I get your opinion. 2-year-old male, Fierceness blows everybody away up at Saratoga, to the point where the horse goes off as an incredibly short favorite and loses badly in the Champagne. But the bounce back, and we're going to take a look at it here in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, it'll be number 9, Fierceness, kind of validating what we saw up at Saratoga. I think despite the defeat in the Champagne, as I say, I think Fierceness goes in the slam dunk category. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah, it is. No, you don't win the Breeders' Cup Breeders' Cup Juvenile in the manner that he did, and you're not the champion. Maybe if you were some maiden who was 60-1 and 7 horses in the field just had the worst trips in the world, but no, he looked dynamic in that debut at Saratoga. What happened in the Champagne? Nobody can give you a real great answer. He just had an off day, and then when you come back in the Breeders' Cup and win like you did, that's without question. He's the 2-year-old champion. There was no one else. It wasn't like someone else was a complete dominant star who just had himself a bad day. No, Fierceness is clearly the champion 2-year-old, and you wouldn't want to vote against him and upset the commissioner. So,
Very good. On the another one, I think, is a slam dunk, which is a slam dunk just from coming in from the side angle on the 3-year-old side of things, Arcangelo. And we're going to take a look at the Travers victory here. And I think the Travers and the Belmont, in a year where no 3-year-old really jumped up and took a hold of the division, I think these two are enough to make him the 3-year-old champion. The others in the category, Auguste Rodin and Mage, but I think Arcangelo, again, I think probably comes in the side door, but is a slam dunk.
Yeah, I certainly don't think, you have the turf horse who won the Breeders' Cup. I just don't think that's enough to make you a champion 3-year-old. Look, going into the Breeders' Cup, if he didn't come down with a little injury, he was going into the Breeders' Cup as the favorite for Horse of the Year. So the fact that you didn't run isn't going to all of a sudden, and the fact that no 3-year-old won the Breeders' Cup Classic, there's no way anybody's jumping ahead of you with that consideration. Yes, that cost him the Horse of the Year because he needed a Breeders' Cup win on that resume to seal the deal. But without question, Arcangelo deserve a champion 3-year-old, and hopefully has a great career at stud.
Now, the one that to me is a little more intriguing is the 3-year-old filly side of things. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts here. The three finalists, Maj, Pretty Mischievous, and Randomized. I put Pretty Mischievous over Randomized. I used Zajira in the third spot, but Pretty Mischievous, and we're going to take a look here at the win in the Kentucky Oaks. She has the Kentucky Oaks Grade 1, the Grade 1 Acorn, and then I was kind of going on those two races because, yes, she has the win in the test on the resume, but that was the ill-fated test, so I really wasn't giving her full credit for that. But I thought with the race we're watching here, the win in the Kentucky Oaks and the Acorn, Pretty Mischievous. But I think an argument can be made for Randomized. What did you think in the 3-year-old filly side of things?
I did also go with Pretty Mischievous. I thought he was. I thought she was the most consistent. She had a really good campaign throughout the entire year. I think that was, as you say, she won the Kentucky Oaks. She had those Grade 1 wins. I understand what people say about the test, but it is still a win on the resume. And in worst case scenario, she was second, which was no disgrace at all. Because I don't think she was really a 7-furlong horse in the first place. But yeah, she got my vote. I did like the turf filly Maj. I thought, she won. Hey, she beat turf fillies in the Queen Elizabeth. She beat the U.S. Grade 1s there, and then she faced older males. In the turf mile, which is a pretty good race, and just barely got beat. So. That impressed me. Randomized was a close third. I thought Randomized won the distaff. I think she would have been the champion, but I thought she needed another win on the resume to really kind of catch up and pass Pretty Mischievous.
And the one category, I'm interested to hear what you say, but I'm interested to hear when things are announced on the awards night. Female turf. To me, everybody I've talked to, that's the real head scratcher. The finalists wound up being In Italian and Spiral and Maj. I completely whiffed. I went with Warlike Goddess on top. Her win in the Joe Hirsch was attractive, and I gave him a little bit of credit for trying the boys in the Breeders' Cup. But it was a division where I don't know if anybody stepped out to me. And so, as I say, I kind of whiffed with my ballot. But what were your thoughts on the female turf side of things?
I did go to In Italian because I thought she had the best year. Look, she won a couple of Grade 1s, then she got narrowly beaten in a couple of top races. She didn't have maybe her best day in the Breeders' Cup. But I think when you put that entire body of work together, that stood out to me. Like I said, I did like, Maj. I thought I put her down second. I thought, those two races were very impressive, but they were two races that I'm going on. I thought the body of work of In Italian, because even when she got beat, she was heavily favored. So how good people thought she was. She was second. Maj was second in her big race too, one of her big races. And I couldn't certainly back. You really have to be a really dominant European, or find a very weak group of Americans. I think for me at least to say, okay, on one race you're the champ. You come over here for one race, you're the champion. I didn't feel that way with it in Spiral. I thought she ran. Yeah, I give her credit. That was a really good, exciting win that she posted. But I just thought you want to reward the body of work, and I thought the body of work for an Italian was the best.
Yeah, and I will lay my thoughts on that European. I've said for years, I have a tough time pulling the trigger on one race because it's our award. They've got their own. They got the Cartier Awards over there. Go for that one. I can't do it on just the one. Now, there have been years where I have done it just because there were just no other alternatives. But right. I make a little bit of a stand there. On the human side of things, intrigued to hear your thoughts. Now, on the jockey side of things, I went back and forth because people were talking over the last couple of months of the year. Javier Castellano had such a great year, really, a nice comeback year. A lot of people are focusing on him. But when push came to shove, Irad, just the numbers were so big for Irad. I went in that direction. I'm surprised, however, Javier Castellano didn't become a finalist. The finalists are Irad, Tyler Gaffleone, and Flavian Prat. And I think with the numbers Irad put up, he's maybe a slam dunk as well. But as I say, I'm surprised Javier didn't make the ballot, make the finalist list.
I do agree with you. Javier was on my ballot, but I'm surprised that he didn't. I thought you do want to, I thought, hey, you win 2/3 of the Triple Crown. He had a really good bounce back year. He was winding up back on some good horses. It kind of showed the horsemen wanted to use him. I thought he did. Irad, certainly, I think he deserves the award. Look, he's a lightning rod for controversy. Yeah. He is a very aggressive, tough rider. I've seen some people kind of want to play stewards, and they say, "Well, I'm not." The stewards. I don't like how tough he rides, so I'm not voting for the Eclipse Award. Look, to me, hey, some people have their jobs. I have my job. The stewards are not going to suspend him. That's their call. My job as a voter, I look at his body of work, and really, he is by far. He is the jockey everybody really wants. No matter what people say about him, you'd probably much rather have him than ride against him. So I think, he's a very, no surprise to me that he's going to win this award.
Yeah, and I mean, it's wins, it's money earned, it's graded wins, it's grade 1 wins. He just had it all on the resume. It's hard to go against. But on that same thought, when it came down to trainer, I was really divided because I think Brad Cox, with wins and money and graded wins and he was right up there. But I put Bill Mott on top, and it came down to, as I say, my horse of the year, I really looked at Idiomatic. She had a great year, and I debated putting her on top. If I had put her on top, I think I would have put Brad Cox as the trainer of the year. But subsequently, I put Cody's Wish on top. So Bill Mott has the horse of the year. He has a number of horses I think are divisional leaders or winners when they're announced. And so I tilted slightly for Bill Mott over Brad Cox, but I really felt like, this was a great year for Brad. I kind of feel bad, but I think Bill just had a really fabulous year. What were your thoughts on the trainer side?
Yeah, I was with you. I got to admit, it was kind of easy for me to say Bill Mott. Okay. I mean, look, I sometimes, if you're just going to go by the numbers, then we don't need a vote. It's like if you have the most wins, you have the most, you win the award. And, I think that some of the breeders awards do that. If you have the most money earned by your horses, you're the top trainer or something like that. Why Bill Mott and why was he easy? Well, when I look at my ballot, Bill Mott had 3 champions. Yeah. Cody's Wish, Elite Power, just FYI, and he had Horse of the Year. Now, that alone really puts you in the upper category. Let's now take a look at what Bill Mott does. He doesn't have the far-flung divisions that a lot of the other top trainers do who have more money and more wins. But when you look at the accomplishment, he trained the Horse of the Year, who is basically a miler, top sprinter, top 2-year-old. He got graded stakes wins out of a 7-year-old in Casa Creed and a 9-year-old in Channel Maker. I mean, how many trainers out there you could say are going to win graded stakes with 2-year-olds and 9-year-olds? That to me is a remarkable training job. And it is said that kind of transcends a bit of the numbers. To me, it was very easy to pull the trigger for Bill. Everyone knows and respects him. You know what a great horseman he is. Runs a very good and clean operation. And then I tell you, I thought the training job he did this year was magnificent. And when you could win in all those divisions, when you could, as I say, when you could get Channel Maker winning stakes at 9 years old, amazing job. I mean, and look, he's got Casa Creed, who's probably going to come back and run at 8. And then you could all of a sudden know how to turn a 2-year-old filly into the champion. That's amazing. So no doubt for me that Bill Mott was deserving.
Yeah, and you mentioned Casa Creed, just the training job there. They came up to Saratoga, and they weren't planning to go into Kelso. They were aiming for the 4-star Dave, but he's kind of tearing down the barn. They go into Kelso, they win that. Now the conundrum is, did that take too much out of them? No, they go back and win the 4-star Dave there with Casa Creed as a 7-year-old. So, yeah, it was some year for Bill Mott, but it's going to be fun to see, how it all shakes out when they are announced in a couple of weeks. Bob, always appreciate the visit. Again, I will tell people to swing by the Bloodhorse or America's Best Racing to catch your work on a regular basis. But as I say, we appreciate the visit and the conversation as always, and we will talk again.
Okay, Seth, thanks so very much. Always a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, we will wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America. I'm looking at my monitor up on the wall, and it looks like the pregame show for New York is about to kick off. Don't forget they have a pick six carryover down at Aqueduct. And don't forget also here today, Clubhouse Racebook, $100 win-a-bet challenge. We'd love to have you swing on by, grab a little lunch at Fridella's, watch the racing action. You can see the Saturday sports on our TVs as well. Right here, Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany, with a little extra fun today, the $100 win-a-bet challenge. All right, looks like they're underway in New York with the pregame show, so I will step back so you can listen to their thoughts on the Aqueduct card for this afternoon, but I'll be back in about an hour or so to kick things off OTB Live for Saturday. I'll look at Aqueduct, Gulfstream, and I'll also look at that nice card at Tampa today as well. All of that in about an hour or so. So I'll see you then. Stay tuned. Up next, pregame down at Aqueduct. We'd like to thank Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Gulfstream Park, the championship meet, running now through Florida Derby weekend, March 31st.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.